Hello everybody, welcome to CXO Cockpit Digital Performance Reporting. Today's webinar, as we just advance through the presentation for you today, is regarding the top 5 EPM reporting best practices templates as seen by the majority of CXO customers. So let me give you some background to the speakers who you are going to hear today. So first of all, you can hear my voice. My name is Alfonso Colanino. I'm one of the regional sales directors responsible for business across the UK, Ireland and the Nordics. I have secondly my colleague Edgar DeRoos, who is the client success manager responsible for ensuring that all of our customers achieve their goals when connecting with CXO Cockpit. He's going to be presenting today. And finally, we have Alexandra Verline, who is one of our most senior consultants within the business. So today's agenda, very quickly, if you wish to ask any questions, please use the control panel and ask your questions, and we'll try to take those if we have time at the end. It's a very short webinar, just 30 minutes long. Then I'm going to take you through the background to the top 5, where have they come from? Why are we talking about it today? I'm then going to hand over to Edgar, who's going to give you a live demonstration of some of those top 5 dashboards and reports that we see. And then finally, Alexandra will actually build one, if she has time, maybe 2 of one of these top 5 dashboards, again demonstrating the ease of use of CXO Cockpit. So let's just move forward to the start of the background. So this top 5 presentation was inspired by a white paper that's currently available on the CXO website. There is an example of the front page here. There is a link here connected. We will send out the presentation here, but it is on our website if you wish to actually view the top 5 best practice templates used by most of CXO customers. So a little bit of background to why we thought about presenting data and numbers and narrative within CXO Cockpit. You can actually see that there are a lot of books and articles written regarding numbers. There's a very famous one by Stephen Few, The Signal, Understanding What Matters in a World of Noise, where he asks a question which is to find signals in the data. We must learn to reduce the noise. So how do we do that? We're going to help you actually do that. Another favorite one of mine is information dashboard design, which is again by Stephen Few. And what he specifically says in this particular book is numbers have an important story to tell, but they rely on you to give them a clear and convincing voice. So again, this is about finding the right data, identifying the trends that you need to actually view. Further to this, CXO Cockpit is also able to provide you with the IBCS Institute, or Professor Rolf Hickert's view of creating dashboards. So let's just move forward. Here is dashboard examples. So there is a lot of individual thumbnail images of dashboards that exist within CXO Cockpit. This is not all of them, but I just wanted to give you an indication as to how many different kinds of report dashboards are available within the solution. So this is why we thought about coming up with the top 5. There must be a number of individual dashboards that are used on a regular basis, and why they're used is the purpose of the webinar. So moving to the next slide, how do we choose a dashboard? How do individuals choose a dashboard? Well, specifically, we found there are 4 main areas for choosing a dashboard. The first one is thinking about the strategic goals that were set by the company. So what direction does the organization wish to go towards, and which key performance indicators does it wish to actually track to see whether it's achieving those strategic goals? Starts to form the creation of what goes into a really successful dashboard. The second part is to think about managing financial performance. So once the goals have been set and you know the direction you're heading towards, it's about understanding the variances, the calculations required to ensure that you are on track, having alerting systems in place to actually indicate to you that you're achieving goals or you're falling foul of achieving those particular goals. The third area is financial relevance versus graphical noise. There are a lot of dashboards that we see in the marketplace currently where there just seems to be a lot of what we like to call eye candy in terms of being very visually pleasing, but they just don't seem to have any financial relevance in order to achieve those strategic goals that the organization has set. So be wary of having a dashboard that's maybe too colorful, but really is not providing the relevance and the information that you're looking for. And the final one is again about simplicity. Finance is not about animated maps, blinking lights, or 3D rendered pie charts. It's about simplicity. We need to understand where we're going, what numbers we need to manage, and how we intend to get there. So with that background out of the way, what I'd like to do now is hand over to my colleague Edgar de Roos, and he's going to take you through the top 5 reporting dashboards as seen by CXO Cockpit. So Edgar, are you still on the line with me there, sir?
Yes, I am, Alfonso. And good morning, everybody. Over the past couple of years, we did some research amongst our customer base, and we came up with a top 5 of the most commonly used report templates that is built in within CXO Cockpit. What I would like to do this morning is just quickly show you the top 5, which is now on screen. Explain about these about these templates, and then go into a demo and show a couple of those templates from a user perspective. Before I will hand over to Alexandra, and she will show how easy it is to set up these templates and fill the templates with the appropriate data underneath. First template in the top 5 is the value tree graphs, which is the number 5. The value tree really gives you insight into the build-up of an account, or any other dimension if you like. On number 4, we find the bridge and waterfall template. The waterfall is really used to analyze variances between 2 periods or categories for one single account. On place 3, we find the multiple bars and lines chart, which is actually a very flexible template, displaying 1 to 6 different charts, and there are different types for displaying bar charts and line graphs in this template. On place 2, we find the multi-column table, and this is also a very flexible report template where you can just display a to be specified number of columns and rows. And the top one, the most commonly used template we find amongst our customers is the financial template. With a financial template, you can do analysis of variances between 2 categories for a number of accounts. And what we usually come across is that this template is used for P&L analysis, balance sheet analysis, or cash flow analysis. Now let's move on to CXO Cockpit and show you a couple of those templates within CXO Cockpit. CXO Cockpit can run from every single browser and also can run on mobile devices. This is just a login screen, and I will log into CXO Cockpit. And it's now generating my first dashboard within CXO Cockpit. I would like to highlight 3 out of the top 5 templates that we just saw on slide. And the first one is the financial statement. So on top of CXO Cockpit, you can find the menu, and I just use the menu to navigate into this financial statement. Below, you can find the header of the report stating that this is the financial statement template. And below that, you can find the point of view, where you can select the point of view that's applicable to the report you want to display. There's a couple of functions on top of here that you can use, and furthermore, you can see here that I've got some messages available for me within CXO Cockpit. But let's have a more detailed look to the financial statement template. On the left-hand side from the financial statement template, there's a table which contains all kinds of information. There's a comparison between actual and budget, but I can choose for a different category in here as well. So I can look to this table comparing actual to forecast and seeing the variance afterwards. As you might have seen, while switching the category I want to compare my figures to, also the elements on the right hand side is changing. So this now is showing my actuals versus last year. Switching it back to budget, it's changing to budget. And the same for the table, the breakdown you can see on the right hand side below. This template is really following the structure of the underlying EPM system, the EPM source. For instance, I can see my direct cost in here. If I unfold my direct cost, I can see my breakdown of direct costs coming directly from my underlying EPM source. But I can also drill down into other dimensions. For instance, if I unfold gross margin, I'm not drilling into my account dimension, but I'm drilling into my product dimension, which showing me now smartphones and tablets, for instance. If I click on gross margin, you can see that on the right hand side, the two objects are changing accordingly. And if you look to the breakdown at the bottom, you can see I can have my breakdown of my gross margin over products, but also over entities being displayed. If I click on my direct costs, there's no breakdown actually over other dimensions available within the source, so I can only view my breakdown over the entity dimension, so not over product dimension. So there's quite a lot of intelligence directly coming from the underlying EPM system, which is being picked up automatically by this template. One more thing about the templates is that you can see some point of view comments or narratives at the bottom of this template. This narratives is being keyed in and attached to the report itself, being based on the point of view you've selected. When you change the point of view to a different point of view, there will be different or no narratives in there. Now let's move on to the next report type. And the next report type I want to quickly show you is the multi-column report type. And as said before, the multi-column report type is a very flexible report template, which we use to capture a to-be-defined number of columns and number of rows within this template. Again, you can see the point of view on top of this template, and you can see the breakdown of a P&L on the left-hand side, which is basically working the same as in the financial template. So again, here you've got the option to unfold different elements on the report itself, and you can see the breakdown going over different dimensions. And on the top, you can see the columns, and the columns can contain flexible column heading. So right now we are on the period September. If we switch back to August, you can see up here that the period is automatically, and plus the column heading is automatically changing to August. One more thing about this template is that it's using automatic coloring, for instance, reflecting the variances within this report. There's one more report type or report template I would like to show you, which is our waterfall template. Our waterfall template is typically used to show a variance for just one single account between two categories, and this can be either a period or a category. In this example, we have a variance being explained from actuals compared to budget. So on the bottom you can see the actuals, and on the top you can see the budget, and in between you can see the breakdown or the variance flow coming from the actuals to the budget. Basically, there's different accounts we can choose from to show the report on, and there's also different comparisons we can choose from. So in this case I'm showing actual compared to budget, but we can also select actual compared to forecast. Let's move back to actual compared to budget. On the right hand side again you can see a trend, the same as in the financial statement template. The trend is showing the actual versus the budget. If we select forecast, this trend graph is changing accordingly, and it's now showing actual against to forecast. We can show the graph in periodic mode or in year-to-date and quarterly mode. And below this graph, you can find the variance from actual compared to forecast. You can have this overview in absolute values, or you can have this overview in relative values. Now moving back to the left-hand side, a bit further explanation on this waterfall graph. This waterfall is now set to zoom in. We can deselect the zoom function, which is now showing the x-axis to start from 0 up to the values, which is the actual values and the budget values. But as you can see right now, it's very difficult to really see what's happening in the variance analysis. So we've got the option to zoom in, which is giving me the graph not starting at 0 from the x-axis, but starting at a certain point where there's more insight into the variance. And one more thing to explain about this waterfall graph is that I'm now showing the base members, which is really the base members of the entity hierarchy, but I can also look at direct members, which is a more aggregated level of the direct members, which is now showing me the different continents. This is just a couple of examples of the report templates from a user perspective. I would like to hand over now to Alexandra Verlaan, and she will explain more how easy it is to set up these templates and to populate these templates with the data from your underlying EPM source.
Yes, thank you, Edgar. Yes, so I'm going to stay in and logged in as Edgar. As you can see, on the right hand, you see the CXO Designer. In the CXO Designer, I'm the admin and I can create my reports. Everything that you have seen that Edgar has shown you is that you can adjust that in a designer. So for example, the way that your variance is shown. So here we show the largest absolute variance on top in his waterfall. That can be changed on report level, and as an admin I can set how to show the variance in my reports. So let's move to the designer. I'm going to create a new report, and I have to give this name a report. So I'm going to start with a multi-column short P&L report. Short P&L. On my source system EPM, I can connect multiple source systems to CXO. And I can also combine the data out of multiple source systems into one report. In this webinar, I will just focus on one source system only. I'm going to use the multi-column template for my first report. So on the left-hand side, you see now unpublished reports because I'm starting a new report which is not published and therefore not visible for users yet. I have to fill in my parameters, and when I go to my settings panel, I can open up my content and I can see what do I want to use for my rows. I've prepared a short list for the webinar which I want to use in this report. And in the columns, I want to use what we call the time series. The time series is a dynamic list based on my point of view. So it looks at 12 months rolling. So let's close the report section and as well as the settings. So what I can see now, I've got 3 accounts: my net sales, my cost of goods sold, and my gross margin. At the bottom, I can see the contents of my list. And I want to add the drills because Edgar has shown you that you can look into the product details. So if I want to add the product details to this list, I will use the products. I've now added the drill into products. Then for my cost of goods sold, I would like to follow the normal structure, so the account hierarchy, and I'll choose the descendants exclusive. These are dynamic lists, so now let's look at my cost of goods sold. I do see the details of my cost of goods sold. So how do I add now a new account to this list? Let's add item. And I want to add the operating expenses to this list. And you can see I can start typing. I can start typing and I'll find either the account number or the account description as it is in your source system. So on the operating expenses, I would like to add another drill. So let's do the entity details. And then the last item is my operating income. So my operating income. And I'd like to change the format of my operating income because my operating income, I would like to show it as similar as gross margin. So I can go then to the format of my rows list. And in the format of my rows list, I can change this, as you see, to total sum. This is a predefined format in CXO that you can choose to create the line to be bold and have a line on top. In CXO, we have predefined formats, but we also have the option to create your own formats. So now we have a simple report, and as you can see, when I change my point of view into September, you can see that the 12-month rolling is changing to show September through to October. So if I want to create another report, let's create now a report with the same list. This is our rows list. And in CXO, we combine lists with templates. And we want to make sure that an admin only needs to maintain the list in one place. So this is my row P&L summary webinar list. So let's create a financial statement report. So the short P&L in a financial statement template. I'm going to use an existing template, the financial statement template. Okay. And when I create the report, it's going to ask me again on the list I want to use in my rows. So let's use the same webinar list. And as you can see, when I start typing, I get the list that has the name webinar in it. And on the right hand side, I immediately get a preview of the list that I want to use. So let's use the selected list. Again, close my report section. And you see, there's my list. So this is my report. I have the same rows list and the financial statement template as Edgar has shown you. I can change my net sales, and again on the right hand side it changes as well. What you see here in CXO as well is both my net sales as well as my cost of goods sold actuals are lower than budget. The coloring of the variance is based on your account type. So CXO knows that your net sales is a revenue account. So when my net sales is lower than budget, it knows to color it red. My cost of goods sold are also lower than budget, but CXO knows it's an expense account. And because it's an expense account, it's a good thing, and therefore it's colored green. So let's make one more report with the same list. And let's do that the short P&L waterfall, because that's the one that Edgar has also shown. I'm going to use the waterfall. And of course, it's again going to ask me my content. So let's look at my summary. And you see, there's a lot of lists in CXO that you can reuse. And this is the one that I've used for the webinar. And again, the same list. I can say by default, I want to open this up on operating income. Then whenever I open up my report, it starts on a default item. I can select any of them, but it starts on operating income. One of the questions that I noticed was, how can we change the breakdown sorting? The breakdown sorting you set in the designer. It is set to largest absolute variance on top. And as an admin, you can set how the breakdown sorting is done in your report. So now let's look at the ease of use of these lists. And I'm looking at my rows lists. So what if I want to add a formula to this list? I can immediately see that this list is used in 3 places. And you can see these are the 3 reports that we have just created. So let's add a new item. And I want to calculate my operating income as a percentage of my net sales. So my operating income as a percentage of net sales. That's what I want to do. I've now only changed the name. But how do I calculate this? We can add in CXO a formula. Okay, so open up the formula and I'm going to create a ratio. A ratio of my operating income divided by my net sales. Okay, let's save that. Now it will only, let me see if I'm going to go operating income as a percentage of net sales. It shows zeros. And these zeros, as you can see when I hover over it, need to be changed in the formatting. I can create a percentage format. And let's now go back to my other report that I've created. So my short P&L, my first multi-column. Hey, you see, operating income as a percentage of net sales has now been added to this report as well. So this way you can easily maintain your reports using the same list. This was the demo of how to create these 3 best practice, these 3 reports in the designer. Let's see if we have any questions. So one of the questions is indeed, how flexible is the solution in terms of enabling data sourcing from various systems? In CXO, we can connect to multiple source systems. We connect to a list of source systems being the Oracle suite, where we have HFM, Essbase, PBCS. We connect to OneStream, we connect to Tagetic, we connect to SAP, BPC, BW. That's where we can connect to. And in the back end, that's what we call a source system manager, you can set up multiple connections. We have adapters and connectors. One of the questions as well was, are you able to start with the green bars first before the reds? I hope I've just shown that to you, that can be done by the admin in the CXO Designer. It's 10:30 now, so this is the end of the webinar, and I would like to thank you all for joining our webinar.